Back again, part 3 of the Thomas Take Sports podcast. I'm joined by Eric Ellis once again. Eric, what was your final thought on Mayweather-McGregor? It got cut off towards the end. Give me your quick final thought on who do you think, how long do you think McGregor could last in the ring with Floyd?
It's difficult to say. I mean, it's a fight. Anything can happen, really. But, for better lack of term, for the obvious, I think that Floyd would win in a boxing match. And I think that Conor would obviously win an MMA match.
For sure.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I'd say probably, I think McGregor could last 5 rounds, which would be a historical feat in itself. So, for a guy that's never fought in boxing before to fight a 49-0 fighter, it's not to say that McGregor has no skill, in a fight. He obviously does in any fight, but to say he'll beat a boxer like Floyd, that's really tough. So only time will tell if that fight happens. We're going to dive into the world of Lavar Ball and Lonzo Ball. One of the more interesting stories that I've seen probably this year, and really, I throw a lot of shade at the sport of basketball, rightfully so. I don't feel like it's where it used to be. I feel like the pinnacle was in the 80s and the 90s, and it's fallen off a little bit to me. Most people disagree with me on that, but it's just my opinion. But I can honestly say LeVar Ball actually gave me a reason to be interested in basketball. I can honestly give him that credit. What was your take when you first heard of this LeVar Ball story, where he was talking about how his son is this, his son is that? What was your take on that?
I was shocked. I couldn't believe somebody was talking about their son right out of college like he was the next big thing. And I actually had no idea who LeVar Ball was for a bit. I didn't know until after, Lonzo was, until after LeVar spoke about him. And, he's actually a really good player. He really is for UCLA. He averages 14 points a game, 6 rebounds per game. Assists are usually around 8. So, he's a good player. He really is. He's going to go high in the draft. He's declared.
Yeah.
I think most people know that by now.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of, as they say, checks that haven't been cashed, especially since LeVar has since believed that, Lonzo and UCLA were going to win the NCAA tournament. And they were eliminated.
Not in that bracket. No. They were going to win that tournament.
Well,
it
like I said, that's cash. Those are checks you can't cash.
Yeah.
And LeVar Bell, for what it's worth, he's his dad, but he's also a great manager in a way because he's promoting his son to a level that will make teams interested, that will get the people who support the team that he gets drafted on to want to come to the games.
I can honestly say, with the utmost honesty, that, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I put it out there just now. I'm not as big on basketball as I am on MMA or NFL or MLB or NHL, just because of the fact that I don't think it's where it used to be. But if you were to ask me who's the first player that I think about that's going to be in this draft, it's Lonzo Ball. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think it's because he's a good player. I think it's because of his dad.
It's a big thing. He is his dad, but he's his manager second. And he's even stated, for the most part, that he, wants to get the word out about his son. He wants teams to be interested. He wants Lonzo to be first overall. He does. But he's even stated he wanted him to go to the LA Lakers. He has. He's compared him to Magic. And he's said that he's actually better than Steph Curry in some regards.
Yeah, like the Magic quote that I think he was just being, brash and boaseful and stuff like that. Trying to get Stephen A. upset, which is really easy to do.
Oh, it's easy.
And he said that, I think what he meant to say was that Lonzo would bring the attention back to the LA Lakers similarly to the way Magic did when he was drafted by the Lakers, which I can't really disagree with that. But when talking about, LeVar Ball being the father and Lonzo Ball being the son and everything that is in between of everything that the dad has said about the son, and then the performance that UCLA had versus one of the juggernauts of college basketball, Kentucky, even I know that, with John Calipari, who is to blame? Is it Lonzo, who was actually out on the court, or is it the father that put all the pressure on Lonzo Ball and said all the things that he said about him being, the second coming of MJ, basically. What would you say to that?
Well, are we talking about them losing UCLA?
Like them losing. Who is to blame for the performance? Was it Lonzo's bad performance, or was it the fact that Lonzo was distracted by the father saying all the things about him?
This is a team sport. Like we always say, football is a team sport, baseball is a team sport, basketball, there are 5 guys on the court. They have to work together.
It's true.
I mean, Michael Jordan is one example of a guy who pretty much carried the team beside Scottie Pippen and a few of the other select names. And you can always say there's Allen Iverson, LeBron James, who carried their team to the finals. But you can't put all this, onto one player. And his dad is mainly just doing this just to increase his stock in the draft, as well as to get his son out there. I mean, he's obviously a proud dad as well, but he's also, in a way, like I've said, his manager in a way. He wants to get this kid the best possible offer, the best possible team, and that's just the way it is. It's not really his fault so much that they lost. Did he underperform a little bit? Yeah, I'd say he maybe underperformed it a little bit, but at the end of the day, they faced, like you said, one of the juggernauts in college basketball,
that's
Kentucky,
for sure.
And it can't just all be on his shoulders.
No, and I agree. I think that's a question that's being thrown around though. Is it Lonzo or Lavar? Was it Lonzo's play or was it Lavar distracting Lonzo? Which arguments could be made for both. But like you said, it is a team sport. I do think the dad did go a little bit over the top, and you don't see Lonzo doing the interviews that the dad does, which that, in a way, is kind of disturbing. If it was on the same level, like if the dad did as many interviews as the son, I'd be like, oh, well, they're both promoting each other. They're both promoting the son's brand, Lonzo's brand, and I get it. But the dad seemed very, like, soccer dad-ish, like just out there way too much for me. He went way over the top, but if I'm talking about, a father being supportive of his son in that regard, that's pretty awesome. I think that he went on national TV, he showed his belief in his son being a top player, and realistically, he's right. I thought that it was just, garbage that he was talking about his son being, one of the best players in the world, pretty much. But from what I've watched, he looks legit. So, and from everything you're telling me statistically, I think he's legit too. Do you think that, it's right for a part of me or part of other people to question his motive? Do you think that this is do you think the father is looking out for his own financial gain, or do you actually think he's looking out for his son?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it really is. I think the father is, as sad as I am to say, I think he's also looking out for his own best interests. Not only his son's, but he's also trying to ride the wave of Lonzo's success.
He's riding his son's coattails.
Yeah, exactly.
Much. Yeah.
And I think that Lavar sees that his son is going to be better than he ever would have been at basketball, and he's going to try and make that as big of a name as possible for himself and for his son. So that's just the way it is.
I mean, he's playing at a high-profile school, UCLA. He's playing a premier position in the game. Some of the best players in the NBA play it. Now, he's going to be one of those guys, wherever he goes. I'd love for him to go to the Celtics, to be honest with you, but that's probably not going to happen. No. But, yeah, I like the kid. I think he's a decent kid, good player. I don't think he's overrated. I think the only way that it would make him overrated is because of the dad. Like, it's not doing the son as much service as he thinks it is. And I think he's going to realize that. I hope that once this kid goes into the NBA, that the dad isn't on ESPN every week saying how great his son is. Because if he makes it to the NBA and he starts to be successful, that's one story in itself. But if he makes it to the NBA and the dad starts saying he's MJ, he's Larry Bird, he's so-and-so, then he's gonna get beat up. Like he's like in the basketball sense, he's gonna get roughed up, he's gonna get fouled, he's gonna have a huge target on his back. And I feel sorry for him in that regard. There's a lot of different directions that this could go in. What do you think about, we talked about the Ball family, the father and the son. What do you think about just the fact that, in some ways I think you'll agree, but what do you think about the fact that I feel as if the NBA might not be where it was? Do you think that there's validity to that in some degree, and validity to it in another degree that it is not valid? Because you are more of an NBA fan than I am. I would be more than willing to chalk that up to you. Yeah. So what would you say about that? The NBA not being what it once was. We got about 4 minutes left. Yeah. Give me your take there.
Quick take. It's just I agree in some degree. You have stated before that guys are teaming up nowadays. They used to have different teams that would fight each other in the heat of the moment.
Like
Celtics, Lakers,
Pistons and Bulls,
Bulls.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys would go at each other's throats, and now every day it's just like you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah.
And we just saw that with Kevin Durant. And LeBron James decided he was going to go to Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh back in 2011, I believe.
Yeah, and 2010, I think it was. Yeah, it was 2010. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, and it's just you don't like to see competitiveness and just this drive to be better than the other team go away. But at the same time, it's kind of exciting to see these teams, put on a performance. LeBron James, you don't really expect to be on the same team with these big name guys. And now he's back in Cleveland. He brought with him Kevin Love and Kyrie Irving. The sad fact is, big name stars are going to bring in big name guys too.
Yeah.
Kyrie Irving was already on the Cleveland Cavaliers, but he brought in Kevin Love. He brought in J.R. Smith, Ian Shumpert. These aren't big name guys, but they're guys that can, come in when LeBron's off and score some decent points. But in a way, I can see where you're coming from. And in a way, I do understand it, but I do like where it's going, in the playoffs at least. The playoffs, it's exciting, and it's exciting to see. We're probably going to see Golden State and the Cavs in the finals again. I will admit that, but it'll be a good finals for sure.
And as well as I do, we watched the finals, the majority of it, and I loved the last finals with Golden State and Cleveland. It was probably one of the best NBA finals, maybe the best ever. And that says a lot because the sport has as many great NBA finals as the sport of baseball does, and baseball's been around a hell of a lot longer than basketball has.
Definitely.
So compared to the World Series and the NBA Finals, there's great ones. There's great classic moments, and it's just I didn't even have the real weird part of this whole thing. Of my opinion about this is that I don't even have a problem with LeBron. I didn't even have a problem with LeBron going to Miami. I actually thought it was brilliant on his part to go to Miami and join those guys because Cleveland was pretty much going down, and he could only go as far as he could go with the Cavs, with the limited star power that they had besides him.
I'm not blaming LeBron for anything like that. I understand what you're saying though. In the NBA, when teams, players join forces, you don't really want to watch any other team besides those teams.
It's just that as soon as that guy joins forces, that team's the favorite. Like we knew when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, it was going to put them over the top. In a degree, we knew that when LeBron went to Miami, it was going to put them over the top. And even then, though, the greatest anomaly with basketball is that the Warriors could go to the finals this year and lose, just like the Heat did.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do get the allure to it. I do understand, it has a fantasy type feel where there's all these superstars on one team, but at the same time, if you go back and watch highlights of the 90s playoffs when Jordan was trying to get through the Pistons and late 80s, early 90s, that time. And then obviously when Magic and Larry were doing their thing. If I was around for that era, I'd be a way bigger basketball fan.
I agree,
than I probably am.
It's still a very fast-paced game.
Yeah.
A breakaway is one of the most exciting things you can really watch. Dunks, even a three-point shot. If it's somebody like Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, anybody like that making a three, it's just exciting to see that. Just so fast-paced.
Yeah. And
that's why I really like the sport. I think a lot of people do, too.
Yeah, I think it's going to continue to grow, too. There's more possibility for, possibly expansion, and they're talking about doing that in both basketball, obviously hockey, obviously football, and, all around the leagues. But there's a new city in town, not necessarily new, but it's going to be a city that is about to be a sports city. We're going to talk about that coming right up.